In this video, we're going to talk about the 7 traits of a leader, and we're going to get to it right now. This video is brought to you by Engineering PDH Courses, your online source for continuing education for engineers. You've been working on an engineering design team for the past several years, and it's now time to move up to be a leader. There's several traits that you need to have in order to lead your design team and to accomplish the goals and objectives of management. The first of these traits, well, none of these traits are in any particular order. All of them are important. But let's talk about one trait first, and that is always to have a positive attitude. A positive attitude is very, very important for a leader. The people in the team reflect the attitude of their leader. So if you go around being a little bit negative and not too sure of yourself, well, that's going to be rubbed off onto the team. They'll act exactly the same way as their leader. So you always need to have a very positive attitude towards everything that's happening within the team. Even when problems are arising, you're still positive because you know you can solve the problem. You have all these years of technical experience, so you know you can solve the problem, and the team also knows that you can. This is exuding that positive attitude that nothing's going to happen that you're not going to be able to handle. The second trait is great leaders are proactive. They're not reactive. And these are two different terms. A reactive person is that they are never prepared for the next problem. They allow the problem to come, and then they try to solve the problem at that time. So they're always reacting to problems. They never seem to be ready for the next one. A proactive leader is always prepared for any problems that might be coming up. They're always ready to move to the next step in the design process. Proactive leaders are not surprised when something comes up that may be taking the team in the wrong direction. They're easily for them to move the team back on course and keep accomplishing the goals and objectives of management. This is a proactive leader, and these are what makes a very good leader of a design team. The third trait of a great leader is one who is willing to delegate his authority to those below him. Just because you're the leader of the team doesn't mean you have to micromanage every single part of the team work. No one likes a micromanager as a leader. Someone who's standing over your shoulder and constantly watching what you're doing on the computer, or constantly watching you write the reports out, or constantly watching you do whatever tasks you're doing throughout the day. You feel like they're always looking over you. That's not the right kind of leadership skill that we're looking for. What we want instead is someone who is willing to delegate the responsibilities off to other members in the team. Another reason for delegating is that you're training the next leader of the team, as the management will be training you as a leader to move up into management. So if you're not delegating, you're not training them. Also, when you delegate off authority, you don't necessarily give all the answers to every situation. You want the individuals that you're delegating to be able to solve the problems themselves. Just like you learned how to be able to answer any problem that comes up on the design team, so do you want your members of your team to do all for themselves. When you delegate off a task to an individual, let's say a task of you're going to be responsible for designing the trusses in the bridge. You're going to have to work out all the calculations for that. So they then take over, design the trusses. They then work out all the mathematics for it, all the software that's needed to do it, and come up with a design that works. And then they bring that to you and say, this is what I think will be the best truss for this bridge project. Or let's say it's a piece of software that they're working on, that they set up the right model within the software to get the results that are needed for the design of the project. Once they do that and they bring it to you, then you can look at it, make sure everything is done correctly. And if it's not, to be able to point out, say, I think this number or this design could be done a little bit better. Why don't you go back and take a look at it just a little bit longer and see if you can come up with a little bit better design on that particular truss or that particular model in the software. This allows them to grow in their technical skills and become leaders in the future. If you're getting value out of this video, go ahead and go down below and hit subscribe. So that way you get notified every time we upload a new video. The fourth trait of a great leader is that they're very, very approachable. Now, an approachable leader, why would anybody be afraid to talk to their leaders? Well, there are many leaders of teams that people are a little bit afraid of sometimes to bring them their problems. Let's say you say, well, I think we're going to have to spend some overtime here to get this design done on time. But you don't want to tell your boss because he doesn't want to spend any extra money. He's already close to the budget. And so you're very, very concerned that he's going to be yelling and screaming that you need to get this done. An approachable leader is not that way. You want to be they will come up to you and say, hey, in order for me to meet this deadline, I'm going to have to work overtime. I can't get this done in the timeline that you've set here. I don't know what to do here. And you as the leader can say, well, we're really close on the budget right now, and I really can't afford any overtime. But what if I take a couple individuals off of the work they're doing right now and bring them over to help you solve this problem? And that way we can stay on track and stay on time. And that person may say, well, I can only give some portions of the design over to other people. And you can then say in turn, will that help you to stay on track if you can just move some of the work over to someone else? And if they say yes, then you solve the problem. And it may even be that maybe the design itself is a little bit above them and they're not technically able yet to do that particular type of design. And so maybe turning it over to someone else is a little bit more experienced and more knowledgeable that can get it done quicker, can then keep the project stayed on time. There's many different ways of doing those kind of things. And so, but if you're an approachable leader, someone who's willing to say, come and talk to me, my door's always open, I'm always here to hear whatever you have to say, that just makes the team work so much better. They're more relaxed. They get even more work done. They're not afraid to do some things that are not quite in line with some of the other guidelines that the company may have, but they're willing to try new things because there's no necessary repercussions of people yelling at them all the time. So that's a true leader. A great leader is someone who is very, very approachable. The fifth trait of a great leader is that they don't ask anyone to do something that they themselves wouldn't do. In design of any particular project, there's parts of the design that are very, very monotonous, and there are parts of the design are very exciting. And some of the parts of the design is very routine. And we as technical people, designers, we get kind of bored sometimes of doing the same thing over and over. We like to design new concepts and new ideas. And so we want those challenging ideas and not necessarily not want those not so challenging ideas, especially when you've done the same thing numerous times. You don't really want to do that again. But a leader is willing to say, look, I've done this many, many times. If you guys need a little help here with running some software, let me take over the software part. Maybe I can run that. It's the same thing I've done 100 times. I can pick that up and let you guys get on some of the other parts that are more challenging for you, that's more interesting for you, that keeps your interest going. Also, when he's willing to do that, or she's willing to do that, that also the members of the team are more willing to do it, because they don't want their leader doing their jobs either. So they want to be able to show that they can still do the work. And even though it may not be the best thing that you want to do, you're going to do it to get it over with and move on to the more interesting stuff in design. I've always loved designing new projects because they challenge me. They give me something new to look at, and they're not the same old thing that I've done hundreds of times. So that's why we like those kind of designs. So as a member of a design team, if you know your leader is expecting no more of you than what they would do themselves, you're more likely to do that work. You're more likely to take it on, take the responsibility, to be held accountable to it, because you know your boss is right there with you. Your leader is right there doing the same work as he's asking you to do. And that's a good trait of a great leader. The sixth trait of a great leader is a person who is willing to be held accountable. In every design team, there's always going to be something that doesn't go quite right. There's going to be an error made somewheres, a line drawn in the wrong place, a color that was not the right color for the project, or not the right location. There's always some mistake. And we all try to eliminate those. We try to reduce those mistakes, but they do creep in every once in a while. A person that's a leading of a design team takes accountability to those mistakes. And even though it may be someone else who made those mistakes in the team, he or she, the leader, will take responsibility for it. And why would they do that? Well, because if you know you're accountable to what goes on in your team, you're going to be watching what's happening. Those individuals who are overworked maybe, or being stressed out too much on what they're doing on their designs, he's going to take a little bit closer look. He or she may say, you're doing a great job on this design, but I think that instead of a straight line from here to there, maybe we ought to go with more of a curved line, maybe a vertical curve or a horizontal curve, or maybe we should take a look at the code, the International Building Code, and on that subject, and let's make sure we're right. Now, he or she may know the answer already, but he wants that individual to learn the answer also. Not necessarily give them the answer, but give them the resource. Tell them where to go to find the answer quickly. And once they know that, then they won't make the same mistake in the future. And it's quite often many leaders, they get in the position and they kind of hide out in the office or what have you and don't come out and take a look at anything. Well, the team kind of goes on its own then. And what may end up in the final design is not what the client wanted. And so that's what the leader's responsibility is always watching the team, always making sure that we're staying on track, we're meeting the goals and the objectives of the company. We're also giving the final product that the client wants and needs. So yes, you may come up with a design that looks beautiful and looks great, but it's not at all what the client wanted. And so that didn't work. And that's the responsibility of that leader, of that design team, to make sure you're staying on track at all times with the design that the client wanted, and you're staying within the goals and objectives of the company. So that is the sixth trait of a great leader. So now we come down to the seventh trait of a leader, a great leader. And I wonder if you know what it is. The seventh trait, what could it possibly be? Well, I've seen leaders in my career that definitely didn't have this trait. They were very indecisive. A great leader is decisive. When they make a decision, they stick with it. Once they say, this is the way we're going to go, that's the way we're going to go. An indecisive leader, well, he may make a decision now, and 5 minutes from now, he may make another decision, and 30 minutes later, he make another decision. So you as a team, you don't know what the answer is, and you just lose track. You can't come up with a design if the leader of the team is constantly changing his or her mind on what direction they want to go with it. So a decisive leader makes up that decision. He's going to listen to everything that everybody wants to say, what their input is. You may say, well, I think that this software that we're using, it's a little outdated and it's not giving us the results that we need. I think that we need to look at maybe another type of software that's more in line with solving the problem. And that may be your thought. And he as a leader may say, well, that's a good idea. But he may also say, my team doesn't have the right software, but maybe another team in the company does have the right software. And maybe a little bit of a phone call to someone else, and they may say, yep, we have that software over here in our team. You're more than welcome to come down and use it, and you can finish your design with our software. And so now you're sent off to another team to use their software, and if he's a decisive leader, he's going to let you do that, and then once you're done, you can come on back and rejoin the team and continue on with the design. But an indecisive leader may say, well, I don't want to send people down to another team. If they're really good, they may want to keep them. And, oh, no, I need to bring them back. And I don't want to let them stay down there. And we'll settle for whatever our software can do. And, maybe we'll go spend some money and with some new software. Or what can I do? I don't want to lose this guy. Well, that's indecisive. You're not making any decisions. The true leader is very, very decisive. They make a decision, they stay with it, and they stay the course all the way through. So those are the 7 traits of a great leader. What are they again? Well, first, they hold a very positive attitude. Very, very positive. Always happy, always knowing what's going on. They know the direction they're going with the designs, and they're pushing forward with it. The second trait is that they're very proactive. They always are looking down the road, knowing what the next steps are. They're prepared for those steps when they come about, and the team moves smoothly from one step to the next step to the next step. They're not reactive. They don't wait for the next step to get here first and then try to get the people onto the team. Nope, they already done all that, so they're moving on. Keep moving forward. The third trait of a great leader is that they're willing to delegate. They delegate the task down to everybody in the team, so everyone gets to work on the designs. Delegating is also another way of training people to become the next leader of the team. And just like that leader, you as a leader, management is probably sending tasks down to you to train you to become a future manager. And then one of your team members will then take your position. So that's the third trait. What's the fourth trait? They're very, very approachable. Okay? Everyone in the team knows they can come and talk to you. You keep a very relaxed office so they can come up with their problems and introduce them to you. You can help them then to solve the problems. You don't tell them the answers necessarily, but you help guide them to the answer. That's a very approachable leader. The fifth trait of a great leader is that they do not expect more of you than what they would do themselves. They're not going to tell you to go off and do designs that they themselves couldn't do. They're not going to ask you to do menial tasks that they themselves wouldn't do. That's another sign of a great leader, is that they don't expect any more of you than what they would do themselves. The sixth trait of a great leader is that they're accountable. They take responsibility. If something goes wrong, they say it's their fault. I should have been watching. I should have been watching what was going on. I should have noticed when we started going this way. I should have pulled you back and got you back online to hit towards the final design. That's being accountable. That's another sign of a great leader. And the seventh trait of a great leader is that they're decisive. They make decisions and they move forward, constantly moving forward. Make those decisions. But before they make the decision, they want to hear all the facts, gather the facts, know what's going on in the team, who has the capabilities of doing that particular task, and then assign the task to them, and they stay with it and move on to the next. That's a decisive leader. Those are the 7 traits of a great leader. A leader that's leading a design team, a technical design team, or an engineering design team, or an architectural design team. Any type of team, a great leader has those 7 traits. To see more videos on how to lead and manage a design team, go ahead and hit our subscribe button over here on the side. Also, we have a downloadable checklist that will show how your team or your company is running currently. To see the next video in our series of videos on leading and managing teams, click the video button over here on the side. Until the next video, continue to grow your skills as a leader and as a manager of design teams.